Hello guys, welcome to the first flipped video for our class. We're going to learn to estimate to the nearest 10 and 100 today. I hope you have some paper and pencil and sit back and get ready to learn how to estimate to the nearest 10 and 100. Our learning target today is that we're going to learn to estimate numbers. Estimate is a word that means to find about how many. It is a synonym for the word round. So anytime you see the word estimate, you're going to think round. Test makers like to use the word estimate, and sometimes that trips us up. But whenever we hear the word estimate, we're going to remember that really all that means is to round numbers. When we talk about estimating numbers, we're really just trying to figure out which tens number or hundreds number that number is closest to. So I've drawn a number line here, and I'm going to give you a number like 22. When I think about 22 and I think about this number line, 22 is right here. All I'm trying to decide when I estimate is 22 closer to 20 or closer to 30? And you can look at the number line and you can see that it's clearly much closer to 20 than it is to 30. So if we were talking about 22, we would say that it would estimate to 20 because that's what it's closer to. If we try another example, and I give you the number 27 this time, and we look at that on the number line, 27 is much farther away from 20 than it is from 30. We would say it's closer to 30, so therefore 27 would round to 30. Another strategy we can try when we are learning to estimate numbers is called the hill or the mountain strategy. So go ahead and draw a hill on your paper just like I have, and we're going to put numbers on the inside. So we're going to start with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 has to be at the very top, 6, 7, 8, 9. And we're going to think about this hill by thinking about what would happen if I put a marble right here at 6. Would the marble roll down this way to this end of the mountain, or would it roll all the way up on the top of the hill and down the other side? So if I put a 6 here, where do you think the marble is going to roll? That's right, you're right. It's going to roll right down here. It makes no sense for it to go up over the hill and down the other side. If I put a marble here on 4, where is it going to roll? Is it going to roll down here to this side? Or is it going to roll all the way up here and to the other side? It's going to roll to whatever side it's closest to, okay? The tricky part gets to be when it's up here on top, because really it could roll either direction. For our example, there's mathematicians have come up with a rule, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So I'm going to give you a number. Let's talk about the number 67. When we estimate to find out what 67 is closest to, we need to know what two tens numbers it comes between. So when you count by tens, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, what two numbers does 67 come between? So we're going to put those numbers here. If you already know, fill those in. 67 comes between 60 and 70. So we're going to write those two numbers down here at the bottom of our hill. So we're going to write 60 over here, and we're going to write 70 over here. Then we're going to find, so this really, on our hill, this is 61, this is 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70. So we're going to put a dot on our hill where 67 would be. So this is 67. And I want you to think about, will 67 roll down to 70? Or is it going to roll up the hill and over the other side to 60? Yes, if I put a marble here, then it's going to roll right here to 70. So again, 67 rounds to or estimates to 70. It is closer to 70. Okay, let's try another example. So go ahead and redraw your hill or your mountain like I have, and we're going to do another example. This time let's do the number 51. So again, think what two tens numbers does 51 come between when you count by tens? And fill those numbers in. So you should have said that 50 comes between 50 and 60. I'm sorry, 51 comes between 50 and 60. So on your mountain, you're going to put a mark for where 51 would be. So I'm going to put my marble right here, and I'm going to fill in my two tens numbers. So I know that 50 goes over here, and 60 goes over here. And I'm going to imagine where my marble would fall. So 51 is much closer to 50, so it would estimate or round to 50. So 51 rounds to 50. Now I bet you're wondering what would happen if I had a number and it was right in the middle. So let's say I had 55. Let's do that as an example. So I'm going to do 55 as my example this time. So we know that 55 comes between 50 and 60. So I'm going to put my 50 and 60 down here again. But 55 is going to be right here. Well, really, my marble could roll either way. Easily. So there has to be a rule. So mathematicians have said that if the number is 5 or greater, it's going to round up to the next larger number. If the number is 4 or less, including the 0, then it's going to round down or stay the same as the lower tens number. So 55 was our example. So our rule says that anytime it's the ones place is 5 or bigger, that it's going to roll up to the next biggest tens. So 55 is going to round to 60. So far we've talked about using a number line, and we've talked about using the Hill method. Let's talk about the actual rules that mathematicians have come up with. When you look at a number, and let's take, for example, 36. When you look at a number, I like to underline the ones place and circle the tens place. The underlined number, the ones digit, is going to boss this number and tell it what to do. The rules that mathematicians have come up with have said that if the ones number is 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, then the tens number is going to go up by 1. If the ones number is 4, 3, 2, 1, or 0, then we're going to round down to round down. I like to say that the number actually ends up staying the same, and I'm going to explain to you what that means here in a minute. So in our example here, we have 36. So the number is 6. The ones digit is 6, so it's in our rule here, and it tells us that we're going to push this number up 1. So our answer will become 40. Let's do another example. If I have 26, so I'm going to go ahead, do this one with me. So write the number 26. We're going to underline the ones digit, and we're going to circle the tens digit. Remember, the ones digit bosses this one and tells it what to do. Oh, I picked a poor example because it's the same digit I did last time. That's okay. We will get it figured out. Okay, so here's the 6. I'm going to look at my rule. Here's another 6. So that tells us we are going to push that number up by 1. So the next biggest number from 2 is 3. So 26 is going to round to 30. 26 is closest to 30. All right, Mrs. Young's not going to mess up this time. We're going to do an example that isn't exactly the same. Let's do, write this number with me. Let's do 42. So we're going to circle and underline. So you're going to underline that ones digit. You're going to circle that tens digit. You know that ones digit is going to boss the tens digit. So this time I have a 2. So I'm going to look at my rule. And this is the one where I'm going to tell you it talks about staying the same. Okay? Because I have to think about that 42 is really between 40 and 50. Okay? Is it closer to 40 or is it closer to 50? That's what we're doing every time. We know that 36 is between 30 and 40. but it's really closer to 40. We know that 26 is between 20 and 30, but it's really closer to 30. We're doing the same thing this time, 42. Okay, so you might know in your head, if you think number line, that 42 is closer to a certain number, but let me show you what the rule says. It says that this one digit is 2, so it's telling us that we're going to round down to the next tens digit. Okay, but we're really not going down. We're staying the same and replacing the ones digit with a 0. So this number is going to round to 40. It's closer to 40. Okay, it's time to do some practice. So get your paper and pencil. I have written the rule up here as a reminder. Remember, if that ones digit is 5, 6, 6, 7, 8, or 9, you're going to go up to the next tens number. If it's 4, 3, 2, 1, or 0, you're going to stay round down to the lower number, but you're really going to stay within the same tens number that the number is originally. So I'm going to give you several problems. You can use whatever strategy works for you, whether it was a number line or the mountain, or simply circling and underlining. So write these numbers down and go ahead and see if you can round them. Okay, you're probably going to want to pause the video right here. Go ahead and write these numbers down and round them. I'm going to do the first one with you just as a reminder. So I have 31 written down. I like to draw 2 lines outside of it, and that gives me the choices. My answer has to be either 30 or 40. It can't be anything else. So if I think number line, I'm imagining a number line. If you need to draw one out, go ahead and do it. If I put 31 on the number line, I know that it is way closer. It's almost 30. It's only 1 away. So I know it's closer. If I think about the mountain and I think about putting 30 on one side of the mountain and putting 40 on the other side of the mountain, I put my marble on 31, it's going to roll down to 30. Okay, I'm a rule girl though, so I like to use the rule. So I'm going to underline my ones digit. I'm going to circle my other digit. I know that my ones digit bosses this one, so I'm going to look. It's a 1, my ones digit. Here's my rule. It tells me that I'm going to really kind of stay the same. So my number is going to be 30. So 31 is about or closer to or rounds to 30. So go ahead and pause the video right now and do these other 4 examples. Okay, let's check really quick. 29 is between 20 and 30. The 9 tells the 2 that it's going to go up, so my answer should have been 30. Here's 45. 45 is between 40 and 50. My rule is 5 or bigger, tells the next bosses the tens digit up, so my answer is 50. 83 is between 80 and 90, so if I underline and circle, the 3 in my rule tells me that it's going to stay the same, so it's going to stay at 80. 68 is between 60 and 70. It is closer. That 8 tells me that this number is going to go up, which means that the answer is 70. If you need some more practice, have mom or dad write you some more numbers and practice rounding them. Our next step is to move on to rounding numbers to the nearest 100. Okay, now that we've learned all the strategies for rounding to the nearest 10, we're going to apply those to rounding to the nearest 100. So you're going to think about it in the same way. So if I have 132, I want to think about what 2 hundreds numbers that comes between. So 132 comes between, think about it in your head, 100 and 200. So if I drew a number line and I said 100 was here and 200 was here and the middle was 150, I want to think about where 132 would be, so maybe somewhere in this general region. And I want to think what is closer. 132 closer to 100 or 200? Okay, well, 132 is closer to 100 than it is 200. Okay, here's the hill example with 132. So I'm going to remember that 132 comes between 100 and 200. So I'm going to write those numbers down here. You'll see that the only difference I made to my hill this time is that instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, it's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. So I'm going to think about where would my marble go if it was 132. So really it would be somewhere right in here. And is my marble going to roll this way to 100, or is it going to roll all the way up the hill and over to 200? So it would roll down to 100. So 132 rounds to 100. I can also apply the strategy, just the simple rule. So this time I have to figure out, I'm rounding to the nearest 100, so my bossing digit is going to be the tens digit this time. So I'm going to underline the tens digit. I'm going to circle the hundreds digit because that's what I'm rounding to. I'm going to remember that the tens digit is the boss. It's going to boss the hundreds digit. So if I look up here at my rule, I have a 3. 3 tells me that I stay the same. So 132 is going to round to 130. Okay, I'm going to give you another example. You decide what strategy you want to use, number line, mountain, or just simply circling and underlining with the rule. So let's try this example. So go ahead and write that one down. Pause the video. Okay, I'm going to underline and circle because that's what I like to do. So I have a 4. I do know that this is 100 or 200. And then the 4 tells me that the 1 is going to stay the same. So my answer is going to be 100. Okay, we're going to do some more examples. So make sure you have paper handy. Okay, here's some more examples for you to practice with. Go ahead and write these down. You can use whatever strategy works for you. Pause the video and solve them, and then start the video again to see the correct answers. All right, I know that 341 is between 300 and 400. I know that this digit is going to boss this one, and my rule says that 4, I'm going to stay the same. So 341 rounds to 300. So I've got 468. So I know that 468 is between 400 and 500. I know this digit, my tens digit, is going to boss my hundreds digit because I'm rounding to the hundreds digit. And so my rule says that 6 is going to round up. So the correct answer is 500. 256, I'm rounding to the nearest hundreds so that's what I'm going to circle. So I have the 5, remember that's the one in the middle of the hill, right here. And mathematicians have said that when I have a 5, I'm always going to go up. So it's between 200 and 300. So I'm going to round up to the next largest number, and that is 300. So we've come to the end of our first flipped video. If you aren't quite sure, you can always ask mom or dad to write you some more problems, and you could always rewatch the video again. There are lots of different options. Remember to use whatever strategy works best for you, whether it's the number line or the mountain, or just simply circling and underlining, following the rules. We're going to do lots more practice in class, so I will see you tomorrow.